Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're having a good day today. This video is about human reproduction. It is a follow-up to our last video on sexual reproduction, and in this video we're going to be looking at sex in humans and asking the question, why is sex such a big deal anyway? Just a quick disclaimer, to answer this question we're going to have to look honestly at the mechanics of sex in humans and also some of the social and cultural issues that surround it. We are not going to go too far into this because it is supposed to be a science video, but I think it would be irresponsible to try and tackle the science of sex without mentioning some of the bigger issues that surround it. But if you think this video will be inappropriate for you or your audience, then please stop watching now. First, we need to remember that all mammals have sex in a similar way. This video is going to talk about humans, but human beings are mammals. This means that the biology of sex is going to be similar for many other mammal species, although of course we do see many differences in sex among different species. Now let's look at the important sexual organs. Below you can see a diagram of the sexual organs in the human male and human female. There are many things on this diagram, but the most important to remember are the penis, which is the male sexual organ, and this becomes erect when sexually stimulated. The vagina is the female sexual organ, and this becomes wet when sexually stimulated. The testes are sometimes called the balls, and these are where the male creates sperm. They are outside the body to help make a better temperature for the best sperm production. The ovaries are where the female keeps her eggs. The eggs are made here, but all females have all the eggs they need for their whole life by the time they are born, and these are then released once every month in the menstrual cycle. Just very quickly, the fallopian tubes carry the eggs from the ovaries to the uterus, and this is often where fertilization happens. The uterus is also called the womb, and this is where fertilized eggs will implant and develop into a new organism. And the cervix is a ring of muscle which separates the uterus from the vagina. In the male, the prostate gland is where the male makes a liquid that protects the sperm, which is called semen. And the urethra is the tube that carries the semen and urine out of the penis. Females also have a urethra, but it is much shorter, and it doesn't carry semen. Human beings are not born ready for sex. When they are in their teenage years, humans go through a process called adolescent, where the body changes to become sexually mature. Adolescent humans experience many changes. For example, they will grow more body hair, usually in their armpits and on their genitals, also on the face and body in the case of males. Both males and females get a deeper voice, although this is more obvious in males. Adolescent humans will also start to produce more body chemicals like adults do, which gives them a body odor that children do not have. They will also find their sexual organs changing and developing, and sexual function will start in both sexes. In females, they will start to release eggs in the monthly menstrual cycle, and in males, the testes will begin to produce sperm. We should also talk about hormones. Hormones are chemicals which are found in the body and affect our behavior and development in many ways. There are lots of different hormones, but the two most important sex hormones are testosterone and estrogen or estrogen. Testosterone is more important in males as a general rule. It controls the bone density and muscle mass as well as sexual function. Estrogen is more important in females, and it controls the regulation of their sexual function and their menstrual cycle. Both hormones do have effects in both sexes, and of course they are much more complicated than this. Now let's talk about the process of sexual intercourse. Before sex starts, there is a very big social question about when sex should happen and why it should happen. This is very complicated and I'm not going to go into it. Sorry. But to complete intercourse, as we said, the male penis becomes erect and it is inserted into the female vagina, which becomes wet to help it go in. This happens until the penis releases its sperm in something called an ejaculation. Both the male and the female experience a sexual climax called an orgasm, and this means that the body releases chemicals called endorphins that make them feel relaxed and happy. This is why sex is enjoyable for both the male and the female. And this is, of course, exactly why we have evolved this way. You might sometimes hear sentences like, our genes want us to feel good about sex, or we were made to feel good about sex. Both of these statements are not really true, but it is the best way to describe how we feel about this process. Now we're going to move on to that very important question. Why is sex still a thing anyway? If you are old enough to be watching this video, then you have probably noticed that human beings act very strangely when sex is involved, and many people are very uncomfortable talking about sex. The reason for this is our body chemistry makes changes in our behavior and emotions which make us want to feel like sex is very important. Sex is the genetic purpose of life, but in everyday life, especially modern life, it's really quite silly and there are many more important things that you should be doing. So human beings often feel a bit weird about sex because their body is really telling them to treat sex as being more important than they think it is, and that they should be doing it more often than they actually are. Following on from this, we need to ask why sex can be a problem. Sex is something very natural and something that almost everybody does, but there are risks to go with it. There are many different sexually transmitted diseases which you can catch by having unprotected sex. The biggest of these is probably HIV, which is a virus that still has no real cure and can actually lead to your death. The other thing to remember is, for your DNA, the purpose of sex is reproduction, and so pregnancy is something that can happen if you have unprotected sex. This is fine if you are ready to have children, but it can be a really big problem if you aren't. And many young people, when they first start to have sex, are not really thinking about the possibility of pregnancy when they start exploring their sexual activity for the first time. Once again, of course, this is a very big social and cultural issue, and there is much more to talk about in this subject. I also want to mention the difference between sexual maturity and sexual activity. As we said, humans become sexually mature somewhere between the age of 10 and 18 years. It is different for every person. But most people do not become emotionally mature until later, and again, it is different for everyone. Sex and the hormones it releases can have a powerful effect on your emotions and your behavior, and it can have very big and long-lasting effects on your life if you aren't ready for it or if you handle it badly. This is the reason why children are rightly kept away from sex, even if they start to become interested in it. When you decide to become sexually active is a very personal decision, but it is something which you need to think about carefully and decide in an emotionally mature way. And children are often not ready for this decision, even when they think they are. This next section is still very difficult to talk about, but very important in the 21st century. Sex gender and sexuality have different but connected meanings, and different people even think about them differently. But broadly speaking, your biological sex is the way that you were born genetically. For most people, this means that you are either male or female according to your genetics, but there are quite a lot of different genetic combinations, and these can lead to people who do not fit cleanly into either male or female, and these people are called intersex. Even then, most intersex people will seem to be either male or female at first glance. Gender is more about how you feel in yourself and how you present yourself to the world, and this is the most complicated of the three terms. Some people think that there are only two genders, that gender is really very close to sex. Some people think that literally every person has a different gender because everyone thinks about themselves in a slightly different way. This is technically true, but I think not very helpful as a classification. You can probably tell that I am between these two, but probably closer to the first. I do not have an idea of how many genders there are, but if we are going to use gender as a useful idea in classifying people, then it should be a number that we can use usefully in everyday life. Finally, your sexuality is about who you are sexually attracted to, who you want to have sex with. Humans choose who they want to have sex with in many different ways and for many different reasons, and this can even change over the course of your life. My opinion is that your sexuality is something completely personal, and only you can choose who you want to have sex with and why. And the same is of course true for absolutely everyone else. This is supposed to be a science video, and so I will stop there. And even then, not everything I've said in this video is strictly scientific. But one more time at the end, I would just like to say again that sex is a very complicated subject, and if you are not yet sexually active, or if you have questions about your sexual activity, you should look to many different places to find the information you need, and try to talk to people who you trust about this subject, maybe your parents, or a teacher, or someone else who you know is emotionally mature. And you should absolutely not feel pressure to have sex with anyone, especially someone who says they want to have sex with you, because that person is probably biased in their opinion. The last thing I will say is to remember that you are you, and that is fine. And the same is true of everyone else. So please try not to get too serious about this subject. But that is our video on human reproduction. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed the video, please leave us a like or share the video with a friend who you think will find it useful. You can also leave a comment down below. I'd be interested to read those. And if you'd like, subscribe to our channel for more science videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, and bye for now.